Hello everyone, I Aditya Khurana welcome you to yet another episode of Lawyer Speaks presented to you by Law Community. And today we have with us Advocate Isha Shekhar, a commercial litigator who is also a co-founder of Ungender, and she has also worked as a legal journalist with Bloomberg TV. So my first question to you is, when did you decided that you want to pursue your career in law?
So it was not like a very structured decision, honestly, because I'm a first generation lawyer and I had nobody to tell me that, this is a career. I actually was pursuing medicine till I was, in my class 12th. But around that time, I realized that that was not the kind of, professional trajectory that I wanted to follow because just like I just started thinking more about my personality, what kind of what are the other options out there which would better suit what I actually like or to do or study, etc. So that way what happened is that it was just I guess it was just like a luck thing where I met a family friend who was incidentally studying in NUJS, who was just graduating, and she told me about law. I had a lot of questions for her, and I just remember she telling me that the best thing about law is that you don't need to decide as of right now how exactly do you want to graduate and what you want to do. You can take a decision over the next 5 years and think what you can do, but this is a good professional degree to have to pursue a lot many things. So I took her word for that. I realized that maybe right now I'm not sure, but given the fact that if a professional degree like law, which can open so many doors for me in the future, I decided that this is what I would pursue. So then I sat for, at that point of time there was no CLAT. We had to give individual law school examinations, and I gave NUJS. NUJS actually was the first exam at that point of time. NUJS was the first exam that used to take place. Before NLS, Analsar, all these things came before. And they used to release their marks also from before. So I gave one exam, and that was NUJS, and I got through and I decided I'll take it.
Okay, you're very lucky now. It's very hard to get through NUJS.
I know. That was, I think that it was just meant, some things are, just meant to happen at a particular time. It just happened.
So how did you strategize your career after law school? Like what actually you wanted to do? Like, because you already said that earlier you didn't know that what you want to do.
Yeah.
You were pursuing medicine first and then you came into law. So how did you strategize your career?
So see, I realized that I have 5 years and 5 years is a very long time, if you think about pursuing a profession. So my intent right from the very beginning was that because, I'm coming from with a clean slate. I don't have any personal experience, nor do I have any family member telling me what to do. So because it was a clean slate, I decided to experiment as much as I could. So right from my first year, I decided that, I am not going to be pursuing a law firm internship till it is absolutely necessary to do, which was in my 4th year. And these are some of the mental checkpoints that I made for myself, that for the first 3 years I'm going to be doing as many different internships as possible, just to get an idea about what does law as a profession have to offer. And that was a very difficult thing to do, honestly, because I remember that because law school is tough, there's so much of pressure and there's so much of cutthroat competition, and that was right from the first year. Like, I know people who started interning in Amarchand right from the first year, and it was very overwhelming to see that people were saying that they knew that they wanted to become a partner after law school, and they wanted to join a law firm, and I was like, I have no idea what I want to do, but let me start. So in the first 3 years I strategized, and I different internships. That's how I did it. So I interned with journalism was something that I really liked. Like, I loved writing, for that matter. So I interned with a Down to Earth magazine in my first year. I did court litigation in my second year. And I made sure that I get a chance to go to district court, high court, just to get a sense of what exactly is the expectation and how exactly does it look like. Honestly, it's very difficult to even imagine what courts look like unless and until you go there and you roam around. In the second year, you're not expected to do any substantial work, but just the fact that you get an understanding about the environment is a very good thing. Third year, I interned with a intellectual property law firm because that was one subject that I personally had a lot of interest in. And I also in between started working, like there were right now there are a lot more opportunities for law students to work, but at that point of time there were few. But then I started working and I started earning my own money in law school itself. So the first 3 years I did like a lot of and legal work itself, like there was a legal research project that came in. I worked with NUJS Law Review right from my first year. So point is that I tried doing different things. I came into organizing a lot of events in college because I love doing that sort of work. And then in the fourth year, I think, honestly, right now, if I look back, it was more out of pressure that I did my law firm internships more than anything else. If it would have been left to me, I would have done a policy internship for that matter. I would have worked with different social justice organizations. But I interned with all the top law firms. I interned with 3 top law firms in my fourth year. So that's how I did it. So the point is that I strategized it in a way, but in the last part of the fag end of my law school career, I did succumb to the pressure that was there. But then I guess I was mentally not ready, because what happened with me was that I sat in my, so NUJS has day 0, which has all the top law firms coming in. And I sat in 5 interviews that day. I got through the first round, I sat through 5 interviews and I got none of it. And when I did not get any of it, then I decided that I'm not going to be sitting for any more interviews in my last year. And thankfully, my parents were very supportive. They were like, whatever is comfortable for you to do. And because it was very overwhelming, because I was like, I don't know what I'm doing. I did not want to sit for the law firm interviews, but I did, and I didn't get through because I decided that if I'm not getting into the top 4, I'm not going to law firms. And then I didn't sit for any interview for 1 year, 5th year, and I then started looking into coming back to whatever other organizations, which at that point of time in 2012, see, right now situation is very different. In 2012, people who were doing something different were like maybe 2 in the batch. It was like that. So then I started looking into policy organizations. I interviewed with a couple of them. I looked into journalism. And again, I think it was meant to happen. And that is how I ended up at Bloomberg for a legal journalism job.
And I completely agree with you, because it's very important to explore all the options that you have during your law school only. Otherwise, you won't be able to get to know like what law actually has to offer to you.
Yeah, absolutely.
So you just said that just after your law school, you started doing legal journalism with Bloomberg TV. Yeah. So how was your experience there?
I would count it as the best experience in my life. Like I love the way my professional career has turned out. I do. But Bloomberg has been my best experience so far. Reason being because it was so new, see, one thing that I always feel is that, when you have a lot of past expectations and opinions and facts that you're already loaded with, and then you enter a job, you are bound to think in that way. But when you enter a field where nobody has anything to tell you because nobody has been doing it, at that point of time, you're completely on your own. So it's a new thing. It's a completely new thing. So you're not bound by any past judgments about a particular, scenario. So for me, what happened was that, when I joined Bloomberg, I initially was hired to do research for the legal show, a weekly show that they were just starting called The Courtroom. And but once I joined, and I guess my bosses, when I interacted with them in my first month, they decided to put me on the field as a journalist. So I was reporting daily from Supreme Court and all the other High Court and the tribunals in Delhi. And I was also researching and working on the show, searching for stories, going and meeting different law firm partners, senior advocates, judges for the stories. So for me, it was a very, very exciting journey. Reason I would say why it was an exciting journey for two main reasons. One is because I got to look at law as an outsider. I was in Supreme Court and Delhi High Court daily. I was alternating. In my free time, I was meeting law firm partners. Best thing was I just started law school, but everybody was ready to meet me because I was a journalist. So I that helped me break the ice about that entire aura that was around senior people in the profession, because everybody was very nice to me and I could have a conversation. And so that breaking of the ice in terms of the profession happened very easily for me, you know and I could talk to so many people. I could network. I learned networking, and I think that was the best thing it could give me, because there is nothing that substitutes networking. I mean, your merit is one thing, but the more you can meet people and the more you explain to them who you are, how you are, nothing takes away that kind of experience. So yeah, so that happened for me. So I did it for a year. I met a lot of different people, and because my job was to talk, my job was to like communicate. And so that made me, I think, get away that initial hesitance or shyness that a junior person who starts a professional journey has, and break the ice with a lot of people in the profession. And that is how I actually got my next job, because I had decided right from the very beginning that I would want to pursue law as a career. Because what happened is that in 1 year I grew very fast in Bloomberg, and they were ready to offer me more things. But I don't know, like, it was a tough decision to take. But then I decided that I want to look at law, and 1 year was a good time to take a good bird's eye view of the profession. And I decided to, because I was in the court, right? So naturally I gravitated towards litigation. And that's how I met different people. I spoke to them. I told them what I wanted to do. And that's how I got into Dua, for that matter.
Right, because law is one profession that is more about connections. Like, more people you know, the more it's good for you to pursue your career. When did you decide that you want to start Ungender? Like, what was the idea behind it?
Okay. See, Ungendered actually started because of the fact that, see, workplace and women related gender laws, for that matter, there is a lot of gap in the understanding per se. They are all done with the right intent. They've all come out with the right intent. Through the last 50-60 years, we have seen several women related laws coming in to address lot of societal issues that has arisen, right? But the fact is, at the end of the day, the implementation is a huge problem, because people don't know about them. B, people who are supposed to be working in terms of implementation are also not clear, because of the fact that it's law. So there are a lot of non-lawyers associated with it. So one thing was that this is one gap that I have always perceived in law. Since the time I was a law student, like every time I would write a project paper or a research paper, I would always think, that how is it and research papers are eventually just research. What is actually happening at the ground level? The data doesn't show that the law is actually being converted into something fulfilling at the ground level. There's always a gap between research and implementation. So in my mind, I always wanted to work at the ground level in terms of working on the implementation. And women related laws was something that I always like. Social justice as a concept was something that I was always interested in. I was always concerned about. I made sure that I was studying, I was doing my research on organizations, because at a point of time in my mind, I wanted to take a break from litigation to jump into and work with several gender-based organizations to explore this. For me, what happened is that rather than working with any organization, I ended up meeting people and talking to them about the different ideas that I had and taking in different ideas that they had. And ended up meeting my co-founder at Ungender, who's still running it as of right now, Ms. Pallavi Parikh. And we decided that, it was a good time to start working in the area of workplace laws workplace laws for women, because when we explored the different angle, we realized that it's a huge spectrum. It's a big spectrum of different women related laws, and it's always good to start with a small topic rather than trying to do everything. What should be our niche where we start from? What should be our first step? And because I had already started advising companies, I had already worked with corporates on workplace related laws, and then started advising them on employment related laws. I realized that this was a big gap, maternity benefit, POSH, Prevention of Sexual Harassment, all the other Factory and Equal Remuneration Act, Shops and Establishment Act. There was like a gap in terms of implementing them at the workplace for women who have started working. So that's how it started. That's how we started working. We started focusing on Prevention of Sexual Harassment at Workplace Act. For the next 2 years, we worked very diligently into helping organizations comply with these gender-based laws. And parallelly, we also started a foundation. We started working with the government of Chhattisgarh, and we also helped the government of Chhattisgarh implement the prevention of sexual harassment at workplace laws at the district level, because the law talks about setting up local committees at the district level. So if you see Prevention of Sexual Harassment at Workplace Act, with Ungender, our idea was to focus on all workplace related laws. But in the next 2 years of starting it, our entire energy went into POSH. Reason being, because it is such a vast law and there is so much to do here. There's a lot of training aspect to it. You have to train people to understand that what is sexual harassment, what is the line between responsible and irresponsible behavior, what to do, what should women do when they face a problem like that. At the district level, the committees were set up, but they were not trained. So we worked both with the government as well as we worked with corporates. And in the two spectrum, we started looking at implementation of Prevention of Sexual Harassment at Workplace Act. And we also ended up filing a PIL, which is currently going on in the Supreme Court, on the implementation of sexual harassment at workplace law at the ground level. That there's a gap. State governments across India are not doing the work properly in terms of compliance. It took us a year to collect research material around it. We filed RTIs across 36 states and union territories. We collected data on what is the state of implementation. We realized that they were doing nothing. So we collected all the data. We took advice from several senior advocates and in the Supreme Court, and eventually they all told us that your research is very it's a very well collected research to actually file a PIL in Supreme Court, and it's still ongoing as of right now. So I'm hoping to see some action in that maybe like in the next couple of years in terms of implementation.
Okay, so continuing this topic of discussion only, so I have 2-3 questions for you if you don't mind. One
Definitely.
is why did you leave Ungender?
Mm-hmm.
And you've also it's been more than 8 years that you're working in this field. So do you feel that there is some kind of gender inequality in general law profession in India?
Okay, so let me answer your first question. Why did I leave Ungender? So reason of leaving Ungender was very personal. But I would still throw some light on it. I was getting very overwhelmed by running 2 organizations at one go, and the stress and the long hours and having no boundary between my professional and personal life, that started taking a toll on my mental health. So I got diagnosed with anxiety as well. And when I looked into everything that I had done so far and was doing, I realized that I still wanted to do the work, but I didn't I wasn't okay with having an entire structure of an organization around it, because or running an organization takes a lot of effort. It takes a lot out of you. And again, as I'm it was a very difficult decision, because when you start an organization, it's like your baby, and it's like giving up, something that you have like literally like started from scratch. You have like, you have set up the organization, you have actually gone to the CA, you have gotten the name registered, you have gotten like everything done. So it was very difficult. But then I realized that in the long term, for me, and you must have realized, by the way, you must have seen my CV, I have done very different things across. And people always ask me that, don't you think that this is very dangerous to do so many different things, because you're not focusing on one thing. And I've always told them that, I never wanted to be a specialist. Like, I don't want to do one thing throughout my life. I am the kind of person, I get bored very easily. I like taking up new challenges. So what was happening with and I'll explain to you what was happening with Ungender, that I was completely getting into gender related work, right? Which I loved, of course. But then I was losing touch with the other field of law that I also love doing, right? So technology law was one thing. Because parallelly, I already had a set clientele since 2014 who I was advising on startups, for that matter. Because what had happened was that I started attending a lot of startup events. So all these founders I started advising, and I loved advising on tech. I loved advising them on figuring out what to do, how to put law together, how to draft technology contracts. So I realized that I was losing touch with that as well. So when I looked into, I talked to a lot of seniors, and I realized that I like doing 3-4 things at a time. Running an organization makes me focus on one thing completely, which makes me lose touch with the others. And personally, I don't want to do that. So that is why post Ungender, I have worked as an independent counsel, which means that I have taken up different work, nothing full time, no full time role, but I have like done different things so that my experience always comes together. So it's not that I'm not working in gender law at all. I'm still doing my trainings. I still work with corporates to train their employees. I'm still an external member with several companies for their internal complaints committee. I still do ground level training work for people, for non-lawyers. I still teach. I'm still working with the corporates and advising them. So it helped me do a lot of different things rather than one thing. And again, personal decision, nothing professional about it. And coming to your second question about gender inequality, see, frankly, law is not different from any other profession, right? Gender inequality is everywhere, and that is with law as well. The legal profession, by the nature of it, is very demanding, is very harsh, okay, and it lasts throughout, like right from the beginning. No lawyer can say that oh, it was very easy for me in the beginning and now it became hard, or it was very hard in the beginning and now it has become easy. It's a harsh profession, because your job as a lawyer is to talk to other people, convince people to to have you work for them. So I think because of that, what has happened is that there is a inherent bias that women may not be able to survive in a profession for a long period of time, because they have other aspects of work also, to other aspects of their life also to handle, for example motherhood, family, etc. I don't think that's true. I think it's not true at all that that inherent bias should be there. Reason, because we are in 2020 now, and that might have been, and I don't think that was true at any point of time. Probably at a point of time, women did not have enough support system to back them up. I feel now there is a lot of support system to back women up. So that inherent bias that is there in the legal profession has to go away. Like thinking that women are not going to be, be long in the profession because tomorrow they're going to be mothers and tomorrow they're going to be managing their family and they'll have 10 different things. No, that's not true. I know so many I know so many partners, and I know so many lawyers who are working in the field who have done well for themselves. But that is despite the system. That is not because of the system. They have done well for themselves because they fought the system. They said no, we are not going to be bound by your bias. So I think it's a bias. I guess that concept has come to me more. I train people. I realize that it's not that people are inherently bad and people think that women don't deserve a chance. It's just that there's an inherent bias for a very long time. And I think that legal profession, I think it's slowly changing, but not as much. It can change faster.
So you just mentioned that you worked in so many different areas related to law.
Yeah.
Yes. So after working in different areas, you landed in POSIST. You're right now working with POSIST technology. So it was just because of your love, like, or your interest for technology law, or otherwise?
No, so as I said, I am again. There is a correction here. I'm not working with POSIST full time. I am advising them as their general counsel on a part-time basis. So how that happened was that when I left Ungender. So as I said, I took a short break of couple of months just to gather everything, like talk to people, get my thoughts in order, right? And as I said, I decided that I'm going to be focusing on a couple of things. Like I'm going to continue with my trainings and work with companies in Posh. And I'm also going to be advising companies and working on technology contracts and policy, continue doing that. And one thing that because of my experience probably with startups and and talking and meeting so many people, was that startups, when they are small, they may not have the bandwidth to hire a lawyer. Even when they're 30, 40, 50 to 100 people strong, they don't want to hire a full-time lawyer, though they still need a lawyer, right? So I realized that there was a gap in the industry there. And what I could do was, whoever I knew from before, I started contacting them. And these are companies which had started 7 to 8 years down the line, and now they were 50 to 100 people strong, and they were in the requirement of a lawyer, but nobody wanted to hire a full-time lawyer, and I also didn't want to join full-time. So now what I've done is I've focused on that segment of mid-sized companies, and I'm advising on retainer basis to multiple companies at one go. How that helps the companies that I'm working with is because they get the advice of a lawyer who is on record for them and who is going to be helping them. And for me, how it works is that it helps me understand both technology and business together. The work that I'm doing right now helps me get in touch with how the business is running, what is the organizational goals, and then help them to implement legal policies and law wherever possible. So that is how the experience has turned out for me. My focus area remains technology. My focus area remains technology law and policy, technology contracts and policy. So I advise, what I do now is let's say I work with a company, the company has a product, I understand that, I work with them, and then I see where exactly terms and conditions need to be plugged in. So basically it's like technology by design, law by design. Where all should legal loopholes be plugged, where should legal policies and conditions should be plugged, so that the product works properly. So that's what I do as of right now.
Okay, this all seems very interesting and fascinating from the outside, but I'm sure that it's very difficult to do all such things. Okay, so lastly, coming to last question. So you have worked in various fields. So what advice would you like to give to the students on how to choose their career option, like on which area to choose during their law school, what to do after law school?
Okay, so see, whenever there's one advice that I give law students all the time, is that don't get stuck in a box. As in, don't think that this is what you should do. X is what I should do, and X is what I should be doing all my life, right, in law school. Because one has to understand that it's a long journey, and it's a journey. It's not like a short 100-meter run. It's a long walk, sprint, marathon, whatever you need to call it for yourself. So once you understand that, once anybody understands that, then they realize, then it's easy to realize that I have a lot of time to explore different things. Just because 100 people around me are still looking for law firm jobs doesn't mean that you need to do a law firm job. First, understand what is out there. Like taking just from my example, right? I tell people about me because that makes students feel comfortable with the fact that, you can do different things and still succeed in life. Because I have gotten this question, and I'll tell you what, I have gotten this question in my interviews, that how did Bloomberg help you? Why did you do journalism? And this is from law firm partners, right? And this is from people who have looked into my thing, and they're like, hey, what have you gotten out of it? But you need to know what you get out of it, because it's easy to know. So for example, I knew what I got out of it. From journalism, it's not that I got law, but what I got was a confidence to network and a confidence to speak anywhere and wherever I went, right? It was the kind of experience that nobody can ever give me, right? Now, that has translated into different things. So my point being that you don't need to think that you choose X and do that thing throughout your life. It's not like that. Everything is a stepping stone for something. So for me, for law students, I always say explore as much as you can, do different internships, work while in law school. Right now, more than ever, there are a lot more opportunities when you're a student to work for maybe a different blog, a website, with legal startups who are doing different work, just so that, and don't look like, for example, if you're getting money out of it, very well and good, but if you don't, it's completely fine. But occupy yourself with the profession as a large. Don't occupy with a position. Don't occupy that firm hai, in litigation hai, startup hai, aise hai. First understand, then take a decision, then start. And again, your decision can't be like a static decision. It's always a moving decision. It's a living decision. It can change after 2 years. It can change after another 3 years. So, but deep down, you will know why you're taking a jump. So once you know why you're taking the jump, do that. Don't worry about what other people are saying. As long as you can convince an interviewer about you, there's nothing that can stop you.
It's not always that you have to land in a tier 1 law firm right after your law school.
No. And again, I'm telling this because of, not my personal experience. Of course, my personal experience as well, because, I didn't get through the top tier law firms right in the very beginning. But I've also seen my seniors, seniors who have, who didn't start with a tier 1 law firm, but because they were smart and they were, they not just smart per se, like they were diligent enough to make sure that, 2 years of in a small law firm, they jumped into a tier 2 law firm. After that, they jumped into a tier 1 law firm. So the point is, you still reach the same position, which maybe another batchmate of you must have reached 6 years back. But you can reach there. My point is, it's because it's a long journey, right? So if you didn't get in year 0, you can get the same thing in year 5. But you need to believe that. You don't need to lose hope saying कि मेरे को पहले बार में, I didn't get it, so I wouldn't get it ever in my life.
Right. Thank you so much, ma'am. This was a very interesting conversation. Thank you for joining us today. We wish you all the best for your future endeavors and a healthy future. Thank you.
Thank you.